أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. There's no God but you, glory be unto you. Indeed, I was among the wrongdoers. وصلى اللهم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Amin. Welcome everyone. Happy Sunday. Hope everyone is doing well, inshallah. We are going to proceed today with the flash on sincerity. The link has been posted and we can also follow along with the text that has been shared on the screen. So briefly, just gonna go back to what this 20th Flash is all about. It's on sincerity, and we are really trying to understand the meaning of the words that has been presented. Verily, we sent the book down to you in truth, so worship God in sincerity. For God's is sincerely practiced religion, which is a verse from chapter 39 of the Quran, verse number 2. So the author is expounding on the understanding of this verse, and he also mentions a saying of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, which is, all men will perish except the scholars, and all scholars will perish except those who act in accordance with their knowledge, and all of them will perish except the sincere, and even the sincere are in great danger. So really, what does it all mean for me pertaining to my existential journey here? How is it that I'm in danger? And how can I be really sincere in my acts here? So just, I guess, briefly in a nutshell, the author has been walking us through how to be sincere in our existence in terms of attributing everything that we interact with to the source of our existence. And so he presents us the case with a question about sort of contrasting two different worldviews. So he names in people of the truth and the worldly people. So he says that usually people of truth, they are more in danger with their sincerity because rivalry occurs with their discourse, as opposed to the worldly people, where there's not much rivalry with whatever the endeavors are. And why is that so? Shouldn't it be the other way? Because if you are, or if you consider yourself as people of truth, then why are you, or why am I falling into insincere act or misguidance? How can I be in danger? So we went over some interesting scenarios, and then what the author is presenting, and then the matter in a nutshell from the first cause that the author presented is really that my reward, verily, verily, my reward is from God alone, which is from Quran chapter 11 verse 29. And again, another verse, nothing is incumbent on the messenger but conveying the message, Quran chapter 5 verse 99. So in a nutshell, really, the human responsibility is only to share what they understand, their ideas, without imposing anything on another one. So I think that would be the best way to avoid discordance. And so these verse sort of alludes to that in terms of whatever acts I do, any sort of execution of it only lies with the source of my existence. So there's only a communication between me and the source of my existence. However, we live in a society and we are always interacting with creation around us. So how can we make sure that we go on in our quest of finding the answers to our existential questions, or as in really finding or making sense of what we deem to be the truth without any sort of rivalry with each other or discordance with each other. So that's really a brief summary of what this flash on sincerity, as far as what I gathered, is about. And I'm just going to give in a little more summary also from last week, where we sort of pinpointed on how everyone here is subject to the same conditions as far as the order in the universe is concerned. So let's say you want a mango tree, you'll go and sow the seed and water it, take care of it. You'll just follow the order, making sure that you get expected results. And everybody does that. So if you want to grow a mango tree, you know what to do. However, what per the author, what distinguishes between the two worldviews, that as a worldly person, I'll be just concerned with getting the results. Yes, when I follow the order, I may get the results. And same thing as a person of truth. If I follow the order, I may get the result, but the difference only lies in the acknowledgement, where I recognize that every step of the way, I'm not the doer of anything. I'm not creating the results. I'm just following the order and just connecting everything to its source. So this was really a summary of what was discussed last time. And I know the authors we sort of stopped at the second paragraph, and today we were going to pick up with some remedy for not falling into discordance if I consider myself as a person of truth or within the people of truth category. However, before going that, when I was reading this, I was just, looking into it, what the author is mentioning here. So the paragraph before that, let me highlight it here. But as for the people of guidance and religion, the religious scholars and those who follow the Sufi path, since they rely upon truth and reality, and each of them on the road of truth thinks only of his sustainer and trust in his succor, they derive dignity from their beliefs. So one can only be dignified in their existence when they just attach their whole being wholeheartedly to the creator of the universe. And so next up, when they feel weakness, they turn not toward man, but toward God and seek help from him alone, as in nothing has the ability to bring anything into existence, but only the one that's bringing this whole universe into existence. So I think there's this acknowledgement part that created things, that things of this universe, they don't have any power to bring any aid to me, but only a one that is not of the nature of this universe is a one that we all need to seek. And so on account of difference in outlook, they feel no real need for the aid of the one whose outlook apparently opposes their own, and they see no need for arrangement and unity. So this is, again, giving an account on if I am following a worldview that is bound to this universe only. Now, how can anyone be in danger of falling away from sincerity? Because we were trying to understand what sincerity means for me. So this is very interesting, this sentence. Indeed, if obstinacy and egotism are present, one will imagine himself to be right and the other to be wrong. Discord and rivalry take the place of concord and love. Thus, sincerity is chased away and its function disrupted. So we are all, I guess, well aware of how the human ego plays a big role in also our transactions with anything. And I'm sure we can all relate to personal experiences as well, head bumping or getting into any kind of heated debate or argument, be it with loved ones or anyone really, like even friends. So then later on, if you reflect on it, like, what happened? What was it? Why was I acting this way? You know, was it him? Was it her? And, you know, we can all, I think, apply the case to ourselves in terms of how our free will sometimes, I guess, we sometimes choose the egotistical path, I would say. And so how can we be more cognizant with avoiding it? I'm just going to pause here for now and see if there's anyone who has any questions on this really brief summary in a nutshell, or has anything to add or something that they struck with them also from last time or anything. So I'm just going to give it 5 seconds. Feel free to raise your hand. Okay, so that's good. We're all thinking and we're all in this together. Hamin just posted the link again for those of you who joined in. We are, continuing on with the second cause of the 20th Flash on sincerity. All right, so let's read up now, where the author is providing us with some remedy on how to perhaps curb the ego, where we can not be in rivalry with each other. So now, the only remedy for the critical consequences of this awesome state consists of 9 commands. All right. Number 1, to act positively, that is out of love for one's own outlook, avoiding enmity for other outlooks, not criticizing them, interfering in their beliefs and sciences, or in any way concerning oneself with them. I'm going to pause here. And really, when I was reading this, I'm like, okay, yeah, everybody wants to be acting positively. You know, we give messages or reminders to each other, stay positive, right? So that's really within the human nature. And we all want to make sure that we are in harmony and love and peace with each other. Nobody wants to live in enmity or any sort of hostility and so on and so forth. So here's my question here to all of you who joined us in. What does the author means by acting out of love for one's own outlook? And the reason I say this is because if one was to live in peace and harmony, as in order to avoid any kind of conflict, rivalry within each other, there must be a mutual respect, which should be, what do you say, maybe it should be like a collective outlook, as in it should be love for everyone's outlook, as in, yes, I am open to listening to what you have to say and I respect what you share. And same thing, you should be open to listening to what I say and respect what I say. But if you want to act in a positive way, or if you want peace and no conflict in any kind of situation, then we should respect each other's opinion, as in we're not criticizing each other and not interfering with one another. But I don't know, maybe the way it's phrased here, like it says, to act positively, that is out of love for one's own outlook. It seems a little selfish in terms of, it still seems like, hey, you know, my way is right, but I don't know. So I was thinking, okay, so the general question I have is, what does it mean to act out of love for one's own outlook? Because I was thinking rather it should be, what does it mean? It should be that we should be acting out of love for everyone's outlook because we're respecting everyone. I don't know if my question is clear. So generally, I'm just wondering, what does it mean for me to act out of love for my own outlook? Because it seems a little not on the right path, like, because if I'm just concerned about my own outlook, then it seems that I'm not open to your outlook. And so if I'm even open to your outlook, I may say, but hey, then, you know, if we both of us are living together in this society, then so be your way and so be my way. Just like, what is that chapter from the Quran? You're kafirun, yeah. So, you know, I don't follow what you follow, and then so be your way and so be my way. So I was just wondering on that. Mustafa, your hand is up. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I had the same kind of confusion with this first of 9 commands. On first read, it seems to be a little selfish and contradictory. Like, acting out of love for my outlook may imply that I should ignore everyone else's outlook. But I think the way I've understood this before in reading other parts of this author's text is that you have to be consistent with your own outlook and act. If you sincerely believe that you have a right way, or for yourself, the right way of understanding the reality of understanding its creator, you have to love that way and respect it first and act consistently with yourself. That's the first step. We don't act with hesitation with everything, right? And you don't, one day you act in one way and then the next day you act in a completely different way. It's telling me, hey, be consistent. If you believe something, if you have this perspective on the world, act according to it. That's okay. It's okay to say, I think I have the best outlook so far right now for myself. And that seems to be the first step. And it goes on and says, avoid enmity for other outlooks too, as well. It's not like that to love your own outlook is to also hate other people's outlooks. They're independent of each other. Be consistent with your own belief, but also if someone else has a different way of viewing the universe and acting on that perspective, don't assume they're wrong. They may have a different perspective and act according to it, and that may be right for them. That may be perfectly consistent and correct for them, as long as it doesn't interfere with yours, following the kind of same golden rule in a way. So don't criticize it. Don't act with your ego and say that my outlook is the only correct outlook. That to me is ego, the exclusivity, and saying that my outlook isn't just correct, it's the only correct one, and everyone else is wrong. Now, instead of really focusing inward, you're focusing outward, and which is what the beginning of this reading says is the correct way, is to concern ourselves with our own perspective. If there are other perspectives, they may add to our perspective. They may give us more information. They may be interesting to us, but we shouldn't be concerned with, we shouldn't look outward and first. We should look inward first and see if there's anything that the world can add to it, that anyone else's perspective can add to it. And I think that's what this command is implying. Not the exclusive, but be consistent with yourself first, and then you may look outward, but avoid any kind of ego when you do.
Thank you, Mustafa. That was very helpful. So starting with my own self in terms of, I need to be first concerned with my own perspective, and then making sure that with this understanding, I'm not letting my ego jump in where I start criticizing or maybe even having any kinds of, what do you say? Yeah, any kind of maybe negativity towards someone else's perspective. So yeah, that was very helpful. And you know, okay, so that part really makes sense, but then there's the third point, which is very contradictory as well to what the author said. So, I mean, I know, Farah, you have your hand up, but I just want to bring it into the third point because it's very related to what we're discussing. So the third point says to adopt the just rule of conduct that the follower of any right outlook has the right to say, my outlook is true or the best. But not that my outlook alone is true or that my outlook alone is good, thus implying the falsity or repugnance of all other outlooks. You know, at first glance, I was like, wait, this doesn't sound right. I mean, saying that, yo, my outlook is the best or is the truth. So maybe there's like a little mistranslation or something, because it should be as far as I'm concerned. So my outlook is best for me, because it again here sounded a little egoistic in terms of, you know, I'm just saying that whatever whatever my perception of something is, it's the best. And then the author is pinpointing that saying that my outlook alone is true. That part makes sense, but even saying it's best, maybe there should be an addition, best as far as I'm concerned, or what it makes sense to me for now. So yeah, I felt that these two are very interrelated, the first point and the third point. And let's see what Farah has to say. Go ahead, Farah.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm going to attempt to connect some of the points that we were discussing from last week in order to understand this.
Sorry, Farah, your voice is low. If you can please speak up a little bit or do something and get closer.
Is this better?
Yeah, it's better. Go ahead.
I'm going to attempt to connect one of the points that we discussed from last week in order to try and offer an explanation for what it may mean, or address this issue of this seeming sort of selfishness or you know, superiority in one's outlook. So one of the things, or the main takeaway from last week for me, was that sincerity is defined by one following the order of the universe in order to do something. And so following the order with all completing and fulfilling all its requirements to the best of one's ability, and doing it, with a certain thoroughness and comprehensiveness. So when I read, to act positively out of one's own outlook, I read it as like, in my own actions, in my own matters, I should be interested and sort of, passionate and motivated to do that as well as I can do it. Follow the order as best as I can do it from my perspective, instead of my goal being, or my attention or intention being, to look for issues and deficiencies in others in order to somehow justify my approach. So if I were to give an example, like, if there are 3 or 4, let's say, children or us sitting together doing the same task, to do it out of one's outlook would be to actually be committed to the requirements and the rules to complete that task, rather than try and compare myself to the way others are doing that task and justifying my position in comparison to them, as opposed to my individual assessment of my own work. So that's how I was looking at this. The point of my outlook is true or the best. Perhaps it can be said from the perspective of, like, if one in their own self can affirm and, as said, is consistent, and can assess themselves in their effort, they can state, make a claim that yes, my outlook is true or the best in the fact that I was, or I tried to be as honest and thorough in my own self, and being convinced of that, or being content with one's efforts, and being satisfied, I guess, with one's efforts.
Jazakallah khair, Farah, good points you brought up here. And I also liked the way you define sincerity. It's really me being truthful in the way I'm following the order in the universe, where I'm recognizing or acknowledging the way things are set up. And so right here and now, Ali Murmur posted some verses from the Quran. So I assume they're related to what we're discussing. So let's study these, inshallah. And I see that Sohail has posted them up. Let me also pull up and see if we can bring this up on the screen. And so while I'm doing that, is there anyone who would like to go over the first verse? Quran chapter 16, verse 125. We can read that one out together. That's from chapter Nahal. Anyone? Okay, so let's see if everybody can see it on the screen. Yeah, you can see it? Okay, so, and I'm gonna read also what, so it says in Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, this is from Quran chapter 16, verse number 125. Invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and good instruction, and argue with them in a way that is best. Indeed, your Lord is most knowing of who has strayed from his way, and he's most knowing of who is rightly guided. This is interesting. I feel that this is to the point of what we're discussing. Even the part where it says your Lord is most knowing of who has strayed from his way. As far as I'm concerned, it's I should only be concerned with my relation between me and the source of my existence. So again, just like the prophetic messages, just convey the message and that's about it. One's duty is just to share out anything that they understand or feel excited about to anyone else, and that will be it. And I don't know, does anyone else want to say something about this verse before we move on to the next? Ali Marmar, go ahead, please.
This phrase, especially, of course, the other part of the verse that you mentioned is directly related to the subject that we are studying. It is apparent that the author has driven all the principles listed here from the Quran. That's what we are going to see, how the Quran presents the subject. But my intention for asking the permission to speak was something to do with this word, Inna rabbika huwa a'lamu bima dhalla an sabilihi, which is translated here, indeed your Lord is most knowing of who has strayed from his way, and he is most knowing of who is rightly guided. This phrase is very much similar to each other, very on many occasions repeated in the Quran. When the Quran says God knows who gone astray, who has gone astray, God knows he is on the right way, right path, right the guided, which means that it doesn't mean, let's approach from the negative side first. It doesn't mean that we should leave it, we say, God knows, and that's it. God knows. God has an infinite knowledge. But what is it to do with us? It means we don't know. God is saying, I know, which infers you don't know. That is the way of prohibiting any judgmental attitude. It hints that I don't know who is really misguided, who is really guided. You don't know, and you shouldn't pretend to know it. It means don't be judgmental. Of course, it doesn't mean that, oh, I am right. Or also, I have to accept that they may be right as well. Oh, I don't know. I shouldn't pass any judgment. I have to look at myself and take care of my attitude, whether it is the best that I can find. It is the best way, it is the best outlook that I'm following. As far as I know, don't spend time on others. As far as I know, what I am following is the best or not. Find the best for yourself, follow it. Don't be concerned, or don't keep yourself, be concerned with the other's situation. I am the best and they are the wrong. No. That is what the third principle says. I am the best. It doesn't mean that I am alone is the best. That is why this phrase, when we study the Quran, when God says, I know what they have in their heart. For example, there are the used in their breasts. This means you don't know what they have in their breasts. So don't be judgmental. That's an interesting way of reading the Quran. I wanted to share this part of the verse. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Ali. That was very helpful. Yep. So I should just be concerned with my situation. In any case, it should be applied in any sort of practical matter. So be concerned with yourself, and don't just kill yourself over someone else's action on something. Inshallah, that should solve a lot of problems that needs to be digested. Thank you. And Sohail, your hand is up. Go ahead, please.
Just to add on to what Dr. Ali said, it's interesting in that as he said, the emphasis being that your Lord is most knowing. In other words, that man, by trying to be judge, so to speak, you try to become a lord in your own right. Not that, you don't think that maybe your outlook is true, as Norsi says, or the best, but you're not really in any position to judge anyone else. Because if you think about your own state or condition, even the outlook, so to speak, that you have, or your understanding of, let's say, the path of truth, or maybe divine revelation, and what the universe means, and what the prophetic teaching is, and so on and so forth, because that's usually where these disagreements are. Even that is also given by your Lord. So in a sense, to draw from Norcy's first two principles, or his second principle, to see that you have been granted and bestowed your particular outlook, and it's out of must be out of his divine mercy. So instead of being critical and judgmental, having the perspective or the understanding that that what you've been given, and to share that with others, not from a judgmental aspect, but wanting people to know what you've been given and how they can benefit from it as well. And in a sense, that sort of engenders unity, as he says, love, brotherhood, and concord. So that's kind of what I wanted to add. I think a big issue stems from thinking that you yourself are the one to judge, because in a way it's like taking the position of your Lord, rather than simply as all people, you're simply a recipient, and that even what and what your outlook is was also bestowed to you. You had nothing to do with it, and you had nothing to do with the matter at all.
Jazakallah khair. Interesting insight, really. The whole judging part. Don't just be judgmental. I think that's the main point, because even whatever I'm bestowed is, who am I? What can I claim ownership over? Nothing. So I think that's where the prophetic teaching lies, also with the way the author presented the saying of the prophet with the verse as well. So it's very interesting how we are so much in need of guidance, also with not falling into, I would say, it's like a trap, but that's why we have to constantly keep checking ourselves, and how is it that I'm viewing my existence? How is it that I'm viewing the existence of the whole universe? So, because really I cannot claim ownership over anything. So who am I, or what am I? In trying to impose something on someone, or even judging about anything and thinking that, I'm like a mini god or something. So thank you for sharing that. That's alhamdulillah, very helpful. Is there anyone else who has any comment or want to say something? If not, then let's study the next verse, inshallah. Oh, Asim, go ahead, please. Do you want to speak from this? Or you want to speak from this?
Sure. Alhamdulillah, thank you. So I want to ask a question. So how do we, the enmity I understood is like not being judgmental about other people's outlooks. So how do we share our ideas, and what is going to be the principle? For the last phrase, he says interfering in their beliefs and sciences. So what is a way like not to interfere but still get, share ideas across? If anybody can share that, that would be great.
Go ahead, Suhail, your hand is up. Let me see who else is up. Yeah, go ahead, please.
If you pull up the verse again, he's in the Quran. It says, وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ. So, and good instruction. بِالْحِكْمَةِ وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ. And I guess it's translated to be, sort of good instruction, wisdom and good instruction. And to me, that I guess it's sort of hard to say unless you see it, but I think it reflects in the way in which somebody conveys what they understand, um, is reflective in their sincerity, I guess, for wanting to share what they know, rather than um, saying that my way alone is best. Because the first part of the verse, it says ador ila sabili rabbika, call to the way of your Lord. And if you call to the way of your way, that comes off as being insincere and self-centered, egocentric. That my outlook alone is true, my outlook alone is good, rather than keeping in mind that the objective is not your way per se. That's not really the objective. It's the objective is calling to the way of your Lord. And I think that's where the emphasis should be. I don't know if that answers your question, but you know, it can be off-putting, and you know, um, uh, to someone, that if they see that what you're calling to appears to be calling to your way, as if you you alone have the answer, uh, and you alone are good, um, rather than trying to call to the way of your Lord to show them that this is how you can best know who your Lord is and communicate with Him. So it removes yourself from the equation, so to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Suhail, for that. But I'm also looking, for example, we exchange ideas in this discussion also. And so I need like a more practical example. And I think Brother Ali's hand is up, so maybe he can go.
Brother Ali, you can go ahead, please. Thank you.
In addition to what Suhail said, of course, we shouldn't invite people, we shouldn't call people to our ways. It means we should not own, we should not possess the idea that we are defending or we are following. We should call people to your Lord.
I don't hear you. Is it me? But Brother Ali, your voice can't be heard. It's there's a new message. Let me check.
To Pharaoh that in a way that I am inviting you to your Lord, not my Lord, to your Lord. It means we have to disassociate the idea that we are defending from our personal possessions. That is why, although the beginning of the verse says, invite to the way of your Lord, but the end, in the end of the verse, it says, indeed, your Lord is most knowing of who has strayed from his way. It means our invitation must be to the path of God. It means the idea, not my group or my idea, but pure idea. We have to make the distinction between my ownership and the idea that I am inviting people to. Because we don't know what people follows, what kind of idea. We cannot judge about the person, but we can have a stand about the idea. some times ago, I remember we talked about the behavior of the prophet, I think in this group, in Mecca and in Medina too. The prophet did not invite people personally to his personal group of people or to his personal idea. He invited people in general without personifying or individual people addressing them. You somebody. He was inviting people in general publicly, but inviting people not to his understanding the message that he received from God. So he was inviting people to the message of God, not to his message, to the message of God. That makes a clear distinction that we have to be careful between the ideas, belief system, or whatever you call them, religion in general, and the followers of the people, followers of that idea, followers of that religion. We should never say anything about the followers, but we can have idea whether this ideology is acceptable for me or not. This ideology is appealing to me or not. Ideology, not the people. For example, we cannot say Christians are like this. No, none of your business. You don't know what the people have in their mind about the religion of Christianity. We don't know for what reason they are defending what ideology. But as I see the Christianity which preaches this idea, I say this idea is not appealing to me. I cannot accept this idea. This is not being judgmental about people. We have to have our own ideas. We have to say this understanding of creation is wrong. This understanding of creation is right. But we cannot say John is wrong, Mike is right. We have to make the distinction between the ideas and the people who follow a certain idea, because we don't know the circumstances, the intention, the reason why a particular person is following a particular idea. We don't know the people's heart. That is, the judgmental is about people, not about ideologies or religions or the way of explaining existence. We have to make a sharp distinction there. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair, Brother Ali. That was a very helpful comment as well. So the whole point about not owning anything in terms of conveying the message, that's the message of the creator of the universe. It's not my message, but it's what I do with the message is I interpret it, and I guess just share it generally with the notion that this is the way of your Lord, or this is the way of the Lord of the universe. So I think with this mindset or recognition, one can avoid as far as falling into even owning any sort of idea. And it's also, makes sense in terms of how we say that belief is a personal matter. It's one's personal conclusion. And then, how you were saying that no one can know what's in anyone's heart. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Maybe I need to digest more on this. I think even in any kind of relationships as well, personal relationships too. I think it's applicable, I would say, in any relationship, but all you're doing, you're just sharing your understanding of something without appropriating it to yourself. Because I think, at least what I understand, is that's where the danger lies, where I get very overexcited and, trying to help somebody, and the way it's conveyed, then I'm saying, no, you gotta follow this way. This is it. This is right. So then I have become in danger where I may attribute it to myself. Rather, it's my interpretation of something, but all I'm doing is sharing my understanding. But let's see who. So there are 2 hands up. I know Farah, you had your hand up. After that, Sohail, you can go. So Farah, go ahead, please.
2 thoughts came to mind that I wanted to share. I take the point that, yes, from our perspective, at least our responsibility, or it becomes that when talking about, talking from the perspective of ideas and challenging ideas, and not talking from a feeling of, as if you own them or created them or came up with them. That's understood. But in a conversation, or in like, sort of settings of conversation around topics, especially such as around belief and religion and life, I think no matter, this is just a hypothesis, no matter how much you may be trying to challenge and just look at ideas, if it's not reciprocated, this point of view or this method of argument or discussion is not reciprocated from the person, the individual you are engaging with, then I think still you run into challenges. Therefore, I take the point that was mentioned by Dr. Ali about personal engagement versus public engagement. And I think it is almost inevitable that if you talk on a personal level or to an individual about these ideas, it is inevitable that they'll be taken, at least from their side or your side, to be personal or attached personhood to those ideas. And so I think I feel like it's a practical advice that I take away from this, that when it comes to topics such as the ones that we are discussing, that discussing them in a public manner on a level of ideology is perhaps the most effective, or as it says, the wise and a good instruction on how to go about it.
Thank you, Farah. Sohail, you had your hand up. Please go ahead.
I was just going to say, when it says وَجَادِلْهُمْ بِالَّتِي هِيَ أَحْسَنُ, I guess, it's translated as argue, but I guess you could say it's discuss in a way that is best. And to me, best for whom? Best for you or best for them? And at least to me, the way I understand it is best for them. In other words, understanding that whether whoever you're speaking to, that no 2 people are the same. So you can't, no 2 people have the same experiences or backgrounds or reasons for doing what they do. So understanding that, and taking into account that because no 2 people are the same, that by being judgmental of the individual, then you are sort of missing the purpose of calling to the way of your Lord. So instead, trying to separate the person from the way that they're following or the idea itself. And that to me is, in other words, the best way. Because, you know, as others said, you know, people do things for their own personal reasons, possibly, but you can never necessarily know what they are. And trying to sort of, you know, just say every person is the same and they're doing something for this reason, and discussing on that base is not going to work. I mean, just from my own personal experience, not related to this necessarily, but let's say I'm talking to like two different patients, and you know, they ask for advice about what they should do for their health. Let's say, you don't necessarily, you may give similar advice, but not necessarily the same, because you always take into account context. And that to me is the best. That to me is to do something in the best way, is to understand that they're, you know, people come from all different sort of varieties and backgrounds. And so the only person who can make that assessment is the person, is you, when you're, you know, talking to people generally. So.
Jazakallah khair, thank you. That was also helpful as far as being cognizant of everyone's background in terms of, yeah, generally speaking, we can all share our ideas, but everybody has a different story. So I think, like you said with the example, similar advice, but not the same. And again, I have to be watchful in my personal dealings in terms of not appropriating anything to myself, and so presenting something in the best way. Yeah, what I understand from what you said is like really best for them in terms of understanding everyone's background. Yep, that's great, alhamdulillah. Any other comments or additions from anyone? This is actually very enlightening. I'm feeling less pressured. To be honest, I was, this is a hot topic actually, and even amongst close friends and family, you know, things get very heated up, and one tries their best not to, I mean, just, you know, make sure that there's no conflict or any sort of discordance. And so, yeah, I feel, alhamdulillah, pressure is being lifted, to be honest. And so with that, I would be very much excited to study the next verse that Brother Ali posted, if everybody's okay with that. If there are any objections, or if you want to go over something else, you know, feel free to raise your hand. If not, then Bismillah. Let's see, which one is it? Verse 13. Verse 13 and 22. So let me see. This was 16:125. So let's put up. Good. 13 and 22. Okay, so let's post that one up. So this one goes as Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And those who are patient, seeking the countenance of their Lord, and establish prayer, and spend from what we have provided for them, secretly and publicly, and prevent evil with good, those will have the good consequence of this home. Okay. Well, let's see. Let me try to see what do I understand. So, and those who are patient, seeking the countenance of their Lord, As in being cognizant in terms of everything that you are given, any sort of understanding, even the if something that I may conclude as belief is bestowed, it's not mine. And me being patient also in terms of, you know, I'm trying to understand the reality, the truth, where you just cannot grasp everything at once. You know, it's a gradual process. So I think being patient in really understanding the one's existence or the meaning of one's existence in this universe, and establishing prayer and spend from what we have provided for them secretly and publicly. I don't really get this part. For them secretly and publicly. Wait, what we have provided for them secretly and publicly, and prevent evil with good. Those will have the good consequence of this home. To be honest, whatever I shared is all I got, but I don't know how the rest of it is applicable to me. Ali murmur, yes, please, thank you.
This verse is related to our subject only the piece which says, prevent evil with good, which is best. So وَيَدْرَعُونَ بِالْحَسَنَةِ السَّيِّئَةِ. So that is what our concern is here. The rest, we are not going to divert the subject into other points, other subjects. So let's stay here. Prevent evil with good. It means if you don't like somebody doing something or any idea which doesn't really sound acceptable for you, etc., don't react in a good way, in a Hassan way, it's a beautiful way, but prevent it. The idea should be rejected, but in a good way, not in an aggressive way, arrogant way, etc. That is what this is the part of the verse that our subject is related. So we shouldn't be aggressive, we shouldn't be arrogant, and we shouldn't be boosting our own ideas in a snobbish way, etc. Just in the best way that we mentioned, you and Suhail also mentioned, according to the need of the people that we are speaking to, according to the capacity of the people that we are speaking to. That is the best way, not according to my ambitions inflicts on me in a challenging way, in an attacking way. That is the way of the Quran. Unfortunately, these kind of advices of the Quran are not taken notice of nowadays among the students of the Quran. That's why I needed to share what the Quran is really explicitly, simply advising us which kind of attitude we should take. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Ali. That was also very helpful, alhamdulillah. Yeah, so just don't react to anything that does not sit well with me. Yeah, I think that's also the training, even in any sort of practical situation, also with regular dealings with anybody. It should be done in a, like how growing up parents teach us, in a nice, friendly way. Respond to something that you don't like, be nice to others. So yeah, thank you. And Sohail, your hand is up. Go ahead, please.
I listened to my share of these. I don't like them, but just curious what comes out of them. These like debates. And now I'm talking about debates between two groups who say, you know, I'm on the truth of Islam, and this is what I think. And generally, like, what I've seen is that on both sides, or there's argumentation, and in the end, no consensus is reached, and worse, the people of both sides despise or hate each other more, which is kind of the opposite of what Norsi is sort of encouraging. It doesn't yield anything necessarily. It may make people more confused, and it may make and generally does make people feel more enmity towards one another. And I don't know if I would call that having a discussion in the best way.
How interesting point. Yeah, I don't know, as far as even like the way things are structured in the society, you know, like nobody wants any kind of discordance. People want to be they want to part in a respectful manner. So even with the ideologies also, that's why, okay, so that's my understanding. Okay, so here goes my little institution. Or that's your way of doing things. Okay, here goes your little institution. So be your way, so be my way. So maybe that's one way to avoid discordance. But yeah, you know, I was thinking about that also. Like, why is the author saying that? Because it seems like a norm now, accepted the way we live in the society. Otherwise, it's gonna become terrible. It's going to be like too many heated debates and wars about all this, where, you know, like deep down, I'll be like, oh my God, you know, we're not coming to terms with each other in terms of not even being open to listening to my idea or something. But I was having this talk with this friend who were here. So maybe you want to share on that, what we talked about, or it's something else. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. It's all helpful. I'm benefiting, alhamdulillah. So I think what Brother Ali was sharing also about, you know, the distinction between the idea and the individual is something to keep in mind. Like the enmity that, you know, Suhail was describing in those debates, usually it's, you know, from the idea, it turns into the individual itself, as if the individual owns that particular idea. So I think as students of the Quran, I think we need to really study these verses. As I think Brother Ali kind of hinted at that when he said, you know, unfortunately, it's true. I feel that way also. I think there are like aspects of the Quran that we kind of neglect because of the way, you know, how the Quran usually is presented. But I'm grateful for these conversations, these discussions, and, you know, the books that we're reading, which really helps kind of us. And this is an important topic, I feel, this part of sincerity, and, you know, the part of where the verse says, you know, sincerely practiced religion. I feel it's a very practical topic. And what really, you know, it's very easy for me to say, yeah, you know, I'm sincere, but still, you know, when you are interacting and, you know, sharing ideas and going, you know, listening to people, these kind of things, you know, there's kind of happen that, you know, instead of like seeing with the idea, if the person actually is in need of the idea, I think that's an important point also, where based on the need, and you only provide that kind of, you know, share that idea. And of course, you know, it has to be, it's all of course all in the individual themselves, within the human being themselves. So as much as, you know, one is aware of the situation and what the needs are, you know, they can share that. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Asim. Very interesting and important point in terms of making sure we distinguish between the idea and the individual. You know, and also I was thinking, I mean, what I was saying before and what we spoke about also, like, we're sharing ideas with somebody, and obviously, both parties can see this is gonna get really heated. So be your way, so be my way. We wanna make sure that we depart in a respectful way. So I was also thinking, can people ever be in agreement with each other? Because really, I was thinking, why are you presenting this to me? What the author is talking about, and he's also specifying people of the truth. So even within that part, I'm like, hey, if we have the same worldview, then I don't want to say that's very idealistic. Oh, shouldn't we be always in agreement with each other? No, but that's not how things work. There are always some sort of variations to things, and that's why maybe that's the whole point that the author is pinpointing. And so that's why I need to always keep checking myself, because even though if we have the same worldview, there may be some traits or some ingredients here and there that maybe based on my background and personal experiences, I may perceive of it in a certain way. But and this is still very premature. I'm still like trying to understand that part, and just wanted to throw out there if that resonates with anyone. Okay. So Hale, your hand is up. Go ahead, please.
I would just say, is the goal agreement, or is the goal to call to the way of your Lord from the previous verse? And I think, to me, that's the objective. And it may so happen that while you are having a discussion, or you are discussing distinct ways or distinct ideas, that both individuals may learn something potentially from the other. So, agreement, in a way, almost, and maybe I'm wrong here, but almost sort of implies that they're agreeing with you. But I don't know if that's the objective. Again, I think the objective is to call to the way of your Lord, to, I guess, together try to ascertain the best understanding of the truth as much as humanly possible. And I think a good example of that, or a good representation of that, is the prophet while he was alive, or the prophet after he died. While he was alive, people had different interpretations of verses of the Quran, and he never sort of imposed his interpretation for good reason, and to preserve its sort of absolute nature. But people had discussions, and people may have had disagreements, but at least I think each came from a sincere point of view. And after he died, they continued to have disagreements, as is well known. Whether on understanding of the Quran, or understanding of how to implement prophetic practices, and so forth. And that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you. That was very helpful as well. So really checking in to see also my end goal. What is my end goal? Is it so that people are in agreement with me, or am I just calling people, or am I just, cognizant in terms of calling people to the truth? So yeah, it's all about being in agreement with what the truth is. But without claiming to obviously owning the truth, but am I in agreement with what the truth is? I don't know, I'm just brainstorming out loud, but yeah, I think that was a little helpful in terms of assessing my end goals as well. Thank you. Well, Hatice Beza, go ahead, please.
Assalamu alaikum. I wanted to backtrack just a little bit and kind of circle all around, actually. And along the points of what Farah had actually brought up earlier about, you know, if I am having this sort of discourse with someone, what if they don't, or what if they're not approaching it from the same angle or method? And I know that we did talk about this maybe a week or two ago, but the way in which I approach or talk about these things, or if I find myself debating, is just as important as the content of whatever it is that I'm saying. And the way in which I go about this is a reflection also on my worldview too, in certain respects. You could say a methodology for my methodology, if you will. So, like, do I think in when I'm speaking to someone that my truth is at the expense of someone else's truth, or vice versa? That like there a hierarchy that is inevitably tied to the individual itself? Going back to our discussion about making that distinction between the individual and the ideology. And I think with the acknowledgement or with the awareness that everything is given, so even my particular understanding and worldview is given, and along with being conscious of what needs are being met for me in this particular interpretation of my worldview for myself. So how do I align my worldview for myself? What needs are being met, and also what sort of needs are being met in sharing this worldview with someone else that I think may need it, and being aware of the fact that these needs are also being given to me. Again, not taking ownership over even the need to share maybe any drop of truth that I think may have been given to me. So I think the process of continuously aligning my own worldview, so however I understand my own existence, and hopefully, constantly adjusting, modifying it in a way that I think is better or more true, being open to other ways or better ways, is at the same time simultaneously, I guess, done, whether consciously or unconsciously, or maybe definitely consciously, with the way in which I am speaking to or approaching someone else, or the way in which I interact with someone else if they approach me, in sharing the worldview itself. So kind of to tie it all together, kind of having these two level of alignments, and so the sincerely practiced religion being, as far as my understanding goes, and based on this conversation, both in how I approach my own existence and my own worldview for myself, with the consciousness that the needs and everything else is given, along with the needs that are being met in sharing it, and in the method or approach of how I share it with someone else. Keeping that original intent or that genuine need in mind, as I interact with others, so that my end goal is not necessarily to change their mind, because it's not a debate per se where one person has to be wrong or right, but rather a coming together of ideas to weigh which one is, or perhaps that there are different aspects of truth in both, and kind of aligning them or adjusting them in the best way for myself. And And at the end, I become the recipient, regardless of whether or not the person adopts or agrees with me, adopts the worldview or agrees with me. Thanks.
Jazakallah khair, Hatice. That was a beautiful summary, actually. We have to, constantly keep checking ourselves in terms of what my motives are, how cognizant I am of the purpose of my existence. So I'm able to connect everything, even the need to share an idea. And, how do I go on about doing that? Or the whole interaction should be done with the awareness that I cannot claim ownership over anything. No one also cannot claim of owning the absolute truth. And so that's as far as my responsibility is concerned in a nutshell, inshallah. I know we have just a couple of more minutes, but I wanted to see if we can go over the next verse that Brother Ali shared. So if everybody's okay with this one, let's move on to verse number 41. And chapter 41, verse 34, and then 35 as well. Let's go over 34 first. But can I bring 34, 35 together? Let me see. Okay, I don't know how that would be. So verse 34 says, and not equal are the good deed and the bad, and not equal are the good deed and the bad. Repel evil by that deed, which is better. And not equal. Okay, so the good deed and bad deed, obviously they're not equal. Oh, duh, that's obvious. Repel evil by that deed, which is better. Yep, we all wanna, clean out anything that's disgusting, remove it. And thereupon the one whom between you and him is enmity will become as though he was a devoted friend. And thereupon the one whom between you and him is enmity will become as though he was a devoted friend. Is there let me see, Hatice, if there is a little option. Wait, type in 4134-35. Okay, 4134-45. So no, let me try this. 41 and then 34-35, maybe this. Wait a minute, maybe it's at the bottom. Yay, look, it's at the bottom. So what we can do is we can, let me see. So sorry about that. Oh, there we go. Okay, so thank you for your help, Hatice and Sohail. That was helpful. Wait, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. But none is granted it except those who are patient, and none is granted it except one having a great portion of good. Okay, so wait, they're connected. So the first part is as far as I understand, but what does it mean? And thereupon the one whom between you and him is enmity will become as though he was a devoted friend. So the one who's not feeling any enmity towards, I don't know, let's see. So let's say if I'm sharing something with someone and, they're sharing their idea, we're really getting hot in terms of heated debate. But then I say, let me cool down. Wait, doesn't even belong to me, this truth. So what am I even, getting personal about? And then I try to, brush things up in terms of, setting the whole debate back to, I don't know, what's the whole point? Like, what's the end goal? Are we to be in agreement with each other, or are we just sharing the truth? I don't know what this verse is saying. Sorry, that was just me. I don't know if it made any sense to anyone, but if you want to share your thoughts, anyone, please go ahead. I'm trying. Yes, okay. You're making those faces. Go ahead, Ali Murmur.
Very quickly, because we don't have much time, I acknowledge that. First of all, the first part of the verse is clear. the good deeds are not equal to bad deeds. They are completely contradictory to each other. Why the verse starts with this? Because the following phrase will say, repel evil by that deed which is better. It means again the same thing, same idea. We can reject any idea, any behavior which is bad, but we have to follow the best way, a better way, beautiful way, ahsan. Ahsan means to make something beautiful as well. In a beautiful way, to reject it. We shouldn't be rejecting it in an aggressive way, in an ugly way, which is not accepted by any human being. The reason here, grammatically, fem means for the purpose. That because, it means because, although the translation said thereupon, I don't agree with this thereupon, because the one whom between you and him is enmity. It means there is an enmity between you and the person. Now, you don't agree on the same ideas. He may oppose you, you may oppose them at the ideological level, but you don't know that he may become. And waliyun hamim is a bosom friend. He may become a bosom friend, a devoted friend. Hamim is a very warm, closely related friend. So there may be a disagreement between you and another person. Don't be aggressive to the person. You don't have to accept his idea, but in a kind way. Behave in a kind way, in a beautiful way, because you never know, one day this person may change his idea and accept the same idea as yours, and he may become a very close friend of yours. So be respectful to the person. Of course, you may disagree with the idea, but be kind, behave in a beautiful way to the person. Of course, this became very obvious during the life of the Prophet. Most of the people who tried to kill even the Prophet and did all sorts of nasty behavior, the Prophet was very kind to them, respectful to them, but never agreed with their ideas. But at the end, those people who were enemy of the personality and the idea of the Prophet, they embraced the idea, and the Prophet was not ashamed of it to accept them, because he never was nasty to them. He never behaved in an irrespectful way to them personally. Again, the emphasis is, please, I understand from the Quran, the Quran advises us, make a distinction between the ideology and the person. You never know. The same person may become, embrace your ideology and may become a very close friend of yours. It's a beautiful advice. Thank you.
Jazakallah khair. This was a very beautiful explanation of this verse. Light upon light, alhamdulillah. I'm very pleased with this. This is a beautiful teaching, actually. You should think about it. The Quran is a beautiful message in terms of helping one really understand everything. Like, one can really be at peace within themselves, and as a result, everything around them. Yes, that was wonderful. Anyone else wants to say something? I know we did not go over the next verse, but I think it's sort of saying that, yeah, we don't know, what the future holds also, as far as, like you said, Brother Ali, that the disagreement at first about any ideology may lead to friendship later on. So that's how I took it. And if anyone else wants to say anything, any last comments, expressions, feel free to do so. If not, then inshallah we can study the next 2 verses next week. Although I was excited to look into those, but we can study those next 2 weeks. And then if anything is not clear from this verse or you want to go over it, then we can do that as well. So if all is good, then inshallah we can stop here for today. I'll just check in 5 more seconds if you want to say something. Alrighty. So Jazakallah khair, everyone. Really, I thank you for joining in and thank you for your participation and all the wonderful and beautiful comments. It was very helpful, alhamdulillah. Yep. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Glory be unto you. We have no knowledge save except that which you've taught us. Indeed, you are all knowledgeable, all wise. وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين بحرمة سر سورة الفاتحة. آمين. Assalamu alaikum.